Hubbard, director slash set designer. Forgot my second job for a second. Jansen Bates, costume designer. And Ashley Engler, lighting designer. Alright, started with an analysis of the music. The title of the song is So Many Things, which I think is very descriptive of exactly what's happening on stage, especially with the paper or the email that Sarah sent us with like the scanner and the cage and all that stuff. I think that's very descriptive. There's a feeling of being on edge, especially with that beeping sound at the beginning, and then there's also some isolation with the lyrics, and kind of like a tragic story if you like really listen to what's being said. I think the overall crisis and feeling of this is a sense of loneliness and being isolated. The resolution, I don't know if there necessarily is one. I guess that kind of depends on what the previous group was saying, is that do they escape from the cage? Is that something they like conquer? I don't know. Effect of the show, I think like it deals with loneliness in society, or at least showing that there is an issue with people feeling lonely. There's definitely no definitive time, there's no definitive location. As a group, we decided that it's kind of like all like encapsulated of time.
It's sort of not modern, but it's sort of like encompassing all of the 20th century and sort of devoid of a specific time period, but certainly more modern.
Yeah, style modern. So the song dialogue, it starts with this like guy talking to Apesma. Don't know who that is. Googled it for a long time, could not figure out who Apesma is. But he starts with saying, your cage is too dirty, Apesma. Remember when you were young and used to break out of your cage? Those aren't real words. You are no longer strong enough to do that anymore. The little girl inside you is dying now. Which is like super sad. And then it goes into this song, which I discovered is The Crawl by Childish Gambino, aka Donald Glover. I didn't know he had a singing career, but he does. So I researched this artist, and most of his songs dealt with family, schoolyard bullying, troubled romantic relationships, suicidal thoughts, and alcoholism. So I think all of those really encompass this idea of being alone and feeling isolated. So our concept was how being alone affects attitude towards a larger group and the attitude of that larger group. And in this image, we kind of saw fun at the beginning and liked it a lot. So, all right, so let me go into set design. Here are my original research images. We saw these before. So I created two different versions of this. Version one, it would be projected onto a scrim, and it would be an individual scrim in front of one dancer to isolate one person, and then have like the other people create more of an isolating feeling to this one like designated dancer. And then this second and third option would, instead of being on a scrim, it would be like a physical cage coming down from like the fly system. It'd only be on like one rail, and it would just be flat. But this way it gives the dancers something to interact with and something to like physically hold on to. Next slide. So here's version one. These are pictures from last year's dance concert, or dance concert in the past that aren't this one. So this is the idea of the scrim. You can still very clearly see the dancer through it. The only problem with this idea is that there's not really interaction for the dancer. So then we moved on to this next idea, which you would have this cage. It would be like isolated in the beginning or the center of the stage, and then the dancer would one dancer would be in it like trying to break out or whatever the choreographer would like to happen. And then if you wanted it to have everyone encapsulated into the cage, we have an option for that as well. So it's bigger, everyone's kind of in it. That's totally up to Sarah. We just wanted to give options to show exactly what happened, like how that would work. Another thing that's important, which Ashley will get more into, is how this cage projects light into the back. We'd want to have a white scrim in the back that Ashley can use for lighting and such, and then project this very clear shadow on the back from the cage. Ashley, go.
So, just started with the light design, I started with a scanner and I looked at different images of just a body being scanned rather than the actual scanner itself. And I really like the idea of the first picture that's highlighting the specific important parts of the body and is very defined and you can tell it to scan. And I really like the red light that was with it, so I thought that we could use a light and cut a logo to kind of highlight different features on people, like it's done in the image, and use a red light to blast down people as they enter.
And this would happen it would happen throughout the piece, but specifically in the beginning where there's that like beeping sound, because that kind of sounds like a Skinner effect, and so we want to like highlight that.
And then for what Adeline started talking about with the drawing light from the cage bars, I found this image, and it would be a front light going back against the scrim to always impose that there is that shadow of the cage always following, and that you can't escape the bars even if you do feel like you've escaped it. It's always hovering over you, and I like the idea of it being a white light with the bars very defined, and most likely go again if we can cut it, or some other options that more experienced light use. And for lights themselves, I really liked the idea of a white light distraught that has the gray gel in it that will diffuse the light and make it kind of ghostly and foggy in a sense, to start with the red light flashing often. And then I liked this transition between it turning gray to blue and then fully to a blue, which would play throughout the rest of the song with the white light intermixed with it at specific points.
So basically just going back to the idea that this is set in a modern era, but it's kind of devoid of a time or a place. So what I did with my research is I looked up the most common silhouette from 1910 to now, and this is what I found, which is basically the sort of shorter sleeved top with a circle skirt on the bottom. And I really like that one because I think that'll help a lot with the dancing. It's very easy to move. They can do everything that they need to do. And I just think it kind of gives the piece an idea of a time, but it's not anything specific, and you're not making a huge statement about a specific time period. And I did the same thing for the men. See men's clothing in the 20th century is pretty much pants and shirts, like it is now. So, and then the color palette that we wanted to go with. So I wanted to play with a lot of textures with neutrals and different shades of gray. And I wanted to do that mainly because I wanted to emphasize the colors in the lighting design, with that red really being the main color that's showing up on these people. And then just using the small patterns and textures to kind of break up their costumes so they're not so monotonous. So I did some sketches, and the top three are the women with that circular skirt idea. And the idea that we had is that these people have been trapped in this cage for such a long time, they're starting to kind of decay and distress. So each garment has a lot of distressing on it. If they've got patterns on it, it's sort of bleached out in some places. It's got patches, or it's got tears in the clothing, just to give that idea that they're starting to deteriorate in the cage.